Damien Bartonek here on behalf of Fox West Texas and the official host of MMA Monday, the only MMA show in the city of San Angelo. This afternoon, I'm joined by native Texan and one of the more slept-on talents in the UFC's featherweight division, Damon Jackson, my man, Action Jackson. Damon, how are you doing today? And you've been in Texas for a minute now. I need to know your Whataburger order, man. What is it? Let me hear it.
Oh man, I've never eaten Whataburger in my life.
What?
Yeah,
What?
never once. Yeah, no,
Okay, go
I
ahead.
stopped like in ninth grade. I stopped eating any fast food. I don't eat French fries or anything like that. So, like I go out to eat, but I don't eat fast food. So never had it.
Man, so it must be really easy for you in and out of camp when you're watching the weight and everything like that. It's pretty.
No,
Yeah.
it's been yeah, I've been at it for a while, and I'm really interested in the fitness, side of things, and like, but that was my background, and that's what I studied in college and stuff. So it's been ongoing for as long as I can remember. I've been eating this way, and trying to stay as clean as possible, and make sure my weight's always good.
Well, I spoke to Adrian Yanez last week, and yeah, he's the complete opposite, man. He said his go-to is a triple meat, triple cheese hamburger from Whataburger when he's cheating. So that's interesting, man. I don't think I'm gonna get very many other responses like that, so I appreciate it, my friend. I want to dive directly right into this. You fought the who's who in the UFC and really throughout your career, but I want to take it back to the old days when young Action Jackson was growing up. What did your parents think of you choosing to become a fighter?
It was actually really hard to convince them that I was going to train the right way and do things the right way and everything like that. Just because like with wrestling, they could go to my wrestling practices and they could watch me there if they wanted to, and they knew that I was working like my conditioning. I was just killing it, and I was running cross country. I was running track. I was doing everything in the world just to get better for wrestling. And I think that for a long time the sport was just kind of like gruesome. It was like if you didn't have a strong stomach, you couldn't really watch it. And like, if you didn't understand that there was an actual sport with it, it was kind of like you watched these two guys go in there and it was just, the punching, the kicking, the just craziness of when it first started to where they, grew into the rule set. They grew into like more of a sport format and things like that. And the styles make fights and things like that. So it's like you kind of learn, from the martial arts, like studying each different thing you do, you kind of learn a lot, about yourself and about your style and, what you can take into the fight. So once I started wrestling, I had really good success with wrestling. I kind of like eased it into them and like kept telling them, this is what I want. This is what I want. And, so once I got into college, I started fighting amateur fights during the summer. And then once I was done with that, I went straight into my pro career. But my dad actually he used to throw up before all my fights. It's pretty funny.
That's
So it took him a while to get used to it. And my mom and dad, they go to all as many fights as they can, and they sit up in the stands screaming and yelling. But it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I think too the interesting part about what you mentioned. So I remember back in like 2008, 2009 is when I first started watching MMA, and I remember Joe Rogan and some boxing like aficionado were arguing on ESPN. They were like, "It's just human cockfighting, blah blah blah. There's no sport." Nowadays, the word casual is not even enough to describe if someone said something like that, right? There's so much to the sport, and I agree, man. It's the sport has evolved so much, but you have also evolved. You've been a high level athlete for all of your life. It seems after kind of looking back into your history, on all these websites, I see you were big into wrestling, baseball, cross country. Why did you ultimately decide to go the MMA route? And in what ways do you think those previous sports kind of reveal themselves now to you in your career?
Yeah, I mean, just the discipline of, doing any sport, the discipline of doing anything. If you're like really good at drums and you're practicing drumming, 3 or 4 days a week, or if you're really good at singing and you practice singing all the time, it's like no matter what, like you put time in and then the work's paying off, things like that. And it just whatever drives you, whatever keeps you motivated and keep moving forward. But it's just one of those things where I just like I love the sport so much. I love it. It's like the ultimate competition. Like all the competitions that I have done. Cross country is like one of the best feelings. Is like when you see the finish line, but you're still like a half mile or a quarter mile away, and you just kick it into a different gear. When you think you're like dog tired and you like you see that finish line and you see someone else like trying to pass you, or you're passing someone else in front of you. It's just a great feeling to run that finish line. And then with track, same thing. And then like, with baseball, it's just like, like I was a pitcher and then also a catcher. So I would always try to like play mind games and try to like, mess with my opponents and try to figure out a way to get in their head or to get around them in some way. And, I think that with any sport, just it's the thing that drives most people, and they don't even realize it at a young age, is the discipline of, like someone expects you to be there. They expect you to do your position. They expect you to do what your job is and to get it done the right way without messing it up. And with fighting, it's just like the ultimate competition. It's a test of your physique. It tests your mental games. It tests like your IQ. Like it tests everything. So it's just the ultimate competition.
Yeah, and I think too, man, you really strike me as someone that's just kind of in your demeanor, a very no nonsense guy, um, kind of very like meat and potatoes, at least from my perspective. And one thing I know, typically a lot of people who have that kind of demeanor, that mindset, they're very family oriented. And I spoke to Adrian Yanez last week, and he said the parallels he's seen between his upbringing with his brother and his dad. They were all really close in terms of like boxing, watching boxing. You have 4 daughters, man, and you're about to go into war in 2 weeks, or less than 2 weeks. What is that, as a father coming home to 4 little girls? Like, how does that affect you as a fighter, right? Because you go to war, you're in one of the most gruesome sports, right? Taxing, but you come home to nothing but love. What is that like?
I mean, I think it's super, super necessary to have that balance of, like when I'm home, I'm just a dad, and like, or if I'm just coaching, I'm just the coach or whatever it is. And then to have, when I'm fighting, I'm a fighter. I'm not fighting for my kids. I don't fight for, like me and my wife have been together since I started fighting. I don't fight for a person or something like that. This is all a selfish dream that I've been chasing forever. And it's something that it's driven me and it's taken me so many places in life, and it's done some great things for me. But this is all for me. This is all for me competing. This is all for me just having that feeling in the back of my stomach, where I'm like walking out and I'm like half scared, and just going in there and figuring it out. And just getting to do it at the highest level is it's an awesome thing. But definitely, you just gotta, it's just, you gotta appreciate it for what it is. And it's just the ultimate competition, and just feels so good to get in there and do what I do.
And I said in my intro, man, you're one of the more kind of under the radar talents, in my opinion. You're 22-4, right? If you're X, Y, and Z, and maybe if you have a little bit of that Dana White push, right? Maybe you're catapulted as the next big thing or something like that, right? But you're in the middle of your prime, and you've done a lot of good things in your career up to this point. Does it kind of drive you or kind of help you out knowing that you do kind of fly under the radar?
It definitely, like if people want to take advantage of that, it's fine. But I think people like fans, like casual fans and people watch the fights, they kind of look at me and they're like, oh, okay, whatever. And then like I think the fighters, they all are kind of aware of it. I think that, as a fighter, you don't really, you can definitely look at someone's record, or you can look on like what they're doing at this moment and things like that. Like I look at Dan Ige and I see like, oh, like he's on a 3-fight losing streak. But then I'm like, just check yourself, take a step back and look at who he's lost to and how bad did he lose. And like, just like to look at things like that, you'd be a fool to just sit there and say like, one way or the other, like this guy deserves this or whatever, and this guy doesn't. But for me, it's just time on the mat. It's paid off, and time on the mat has gotten me so much respect. And I think that people are just now starting to see it, because I don't make a big scene. I go out there and take care of business, and I like to do all the talking, all the BS that a lot of people like to do publicly. I like to just do it in cage, and I think that. I definitely get overlooked in some ways, but I think that people that understand the sport and they understand how to break down a fighter, like they understand where I'm at. And that's why the odds are always just like neck and neck, every fight, where, this fight's going to be, who knows? It's going to be a tough fight both ways.
Yeah, and with the victory against Dan Ige, man, you're going to be in the top 15, and it's so interesting because you've done things in really every promotion, whether it's the LFA, Bellator, wherever you've been, right? You've done things. So how does it feel, like, kind of looking back and knowing, like, everywhere you've been at, you've made a name for yourself? What is that like to you, kind of looking back?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things like I was saying earlier, the whole journey thing where like I never really I haven't taken a hard look back in a while just because like I'm still moving forward. I'm still chasing the dream that I set out to chase originally. So I think maybe once I got that, then I could kind of take a step back and just really be like, oh my God, this has been awesome. But for me, it's like uh respect's respect. And I think that you have to earn it for sure. And I think that I've definitely earned a lot of respect in so many different ways. And I think this is just this is a big step on me getting, what I want. And I don't demand people's respect. I mean, whatever. If people love me, they love me. They hate me, they hate me. I know what I have in my life. And as long as I make these little girls, I got 4 girls and my wife. As long as I'm making them proud and happy, then I'm okay with whatever anyone else thinks of me, as long as I make them proud. That's all I care about.
And you're sitting right in front of me. This is the kind of the last one I got for you. You're sitting in front of me right now. You're, what is it, 11 days out from the Ige fight. Let's say Damon Jackson beats Dan Ige. What's next? What are you thinking? What are you feeling for 2023?
The spot in the rankings is, that's what I'm looking. That's what I've been asking for. And then, like for me, my style, every time I get done fighting, I'm already trying to book my next fight. So that's not going to change. I'm going to go out there and take care of business, and I'm going to be looking for, quick turnaround no matter what. As long as I'm healthy, I'm going to be fighting.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining me, my friend. And looking back to your record, for those that are listening, man, you really have fought the who's who across like everywhere. Even a guy like Ilya Taporia, who's getting a ton of love right now. You mentioned too about Dan Ige, like, oh, look who's lost to. Yeah, you've only lost to the best as well. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I'm feeling like this fight against Ige, man, it kind of puts you on the map to another level starting 2023. And I'm very excited to see where you go. But as far as that's concerned, man, thank you so much for joining me. It was an honor to sit down and kind of discuss your journey and your career, kind of where you're at right now. But please feel free to let the fans know what you have coming up.
Yeah, man. No, January 14th. That's next up right now, and then after that, I'm opening my gym, and then we'll see where we're at from there. And I'll be looking to fight as soon as I can. But I appreciate everybody's support, and thank you for the time for sure.
Absolutely, brother. And with Fox West Texas and MMA Monday, I'm Damien Bartonek, signing out.